Hi, we are at Futuretech for the SDN cast, and I'm joined here by Wessel from Arcady. Wessel, for the people who don't know you yet, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Well, my name is Wessel. I work at Arcady. I'm a tech lead with a focus on .NET and Azure technology. So anywhere in between development and operations, I feel right at home. So software architecture, cloud architecture, guiding teams to use it. That's really my passion. So.
And what are you doing at Arcady?
At Arcady, we help clients with their IT problems. Of course, everybody does that, but we aim to be kind of an end-to-end service, IT service for clients. So if a client has a question like, hey, can you build an app for us or a portal for us? We answer by, okay, let's do some UX research and really find what your customers want. Let's really define a business model. Then, of course, we'll get developers involved, really build something, but then also it has to run somewhere. So we set up the Azure cloud to do the infrastructure, and yeah, we help manage it for the customer.
And you probably have some tech stack you really want to use for infrastructure as code, for running this for your clients. What is your go-to infrastructure as code?
Really, for me, it's Bicep, but it depends on the client's wishes, of course. So luckily, most of our clients are really open to using infrastructure as code, because that's not always a given. And then Bicep or Terraform, it's all fine. Occasionally, we do some ClickOps as well. Not afraid to admit it.
You're still the portal clicker guys.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, but that's what the client wants, right?
Yeah.
So that's, you probably want to steer them in the right direction of infrastructure as
yeah.
code. But
and really, we do a lot of work for kind of SMBs, so small to medium businesses, and they are not always mature enough in their processes to really understand the need for infrastructure as code. So sometimes it's like, let's just set it up in a portal together, and you get to see it running, and then let's optimize. Let's add some infrastructure as code where it makes sense.
Yeah, but it makes sense because they see value from the things you build, and then they start to understand it actually has to be maintained.
Yeah, you really have to run into the problem to be able to fix it.
And you mentioned you went all over the place. You went from .NET to Azure and from Dev to Ops, so you have the entire stack. But what makes your heart go faster? What do you really love to do?
Really, I can't pick. An ideal day for me would be to really build something cool in .NET, and then also really set up the infrastructure to really run it and make it scalable. So yeah, I'm full stack in the most broad sense.
So even full stack, and where did you start in your career? Was that .NET development as well?
My career started in .NET, and I did a lot of Azure, Angular. I really also gave Angular trainings at the beginning. So .NET Angular was really my stack, but I gradually shifted more away from front end onto back end plus cloud. So yeah, that's where I really feel at home.
We need a new name for you, because you do front end, dev and ops. So
that is front dev ops, sec ops. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what you do is I would probably call it platform engineering. What you do there, and then how do you keep this manageable for your clients to maintain these stacks well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, like mentioned, we do a lot of work for SMBs, and this means that we very often encounter clients that have maybe 5 developers or 10 developers, 15. It's not really the skill where you need an ops team, but you definitely want to maximize your usage of the cloud and really implement it where it makes sense. So what I personally really like to do is to help development teams that really help them focus on their software part and make the cloud as easy to use as possible. And we do this by leveraging, of course, PaaS components, cloud native components, and then also, because I do like to use infrastructure as code, kind of abstract away from the complexities. Not every developer wants to know how a VNet works and why peering is necessary and how to set up all the correct firewall rules, but we can make it easier for them by using abstractions and modules.
But don't you think those developers also should know how these VNets work? Because it's their software running on these networks, right?
So yeah, that's a good question. I do think developers really need to understand the basics of networking and cloud computing, of course. But I also think that while a lot of software is very flexible, it grows and shrinks and changes over time, I think that network topology and infrastructure is less flexible. So once you define your network topology, basically that's going to run until the end of days, not maybe, but the structure is going to remain the same. So of course, nowadays hub-spoke networks are all the rage. Adding a new environment is a matter of adding a new spoke. And as long as developers understand how they, or what it is and what it's for, we can abstract away the details that they don't necessarily need to know about on a daily basis.
But if you run into issues like networking issues, and working with Azure, you will run into some network issues. How would they debug then if they have no clue as to where it's running?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's why I think that SMBs need a reliable third-party partner for that. So of course, in a development team of any given size, there's going to be people who are more cloud-oriented. They'll know how to find their way in things like Azure Monitor or maybe even a bit of Network Watcher. But if it really gets complex, you kind of want to make sure that alerting is set up right, and there's things like connectivity tests and great dashboards that they can use. But also, especially for smaller companies, it's important that they have a backup partner who they can rely on if they really can't figure it out themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it also is almost if we're coming back from DevOps, because DevOps is also always propagating these developers and ops in the same team. You have to know what they're doing from each discipline. Is this something you are seeing with your clients, that ops and dev is now their own silo again?
That's a great question. Not necessarily. I think that developers can be very DevOps, but there are always going to be some things that are maybe a bit too specific of a knowledge for a regular developer to know about. So I think, maybe I could give you a practical example. In development teams that I support with their cloud journey, I tend to make like modules in Bicep that they can use, and they are really flexible. So they say, I want to build or host a container somewhere. Then we have, of course, a plethora of options to do. But let's say we want to use Azure Container Apps. Great, let's make a module for that and really only expose the things that are necessary for them to know. They can plug in databases. You can build abstractions for like creating managed identity access, really automating away all the setting of connection strings. Of course, they need to know about it. It's there in the code if they need to see it. But you don't want to burden them with the complexity on a regular basis. And from that point on, you can educate these developers to further enhance their Azure knowledge and also get them to work in the underlying modules themselves.
You're making their lives so much easier.
That's basically it. I don't know if you've ever configured like Azure Firewall or Azure Application Gateway. It's a pain.
That's great fun.
It's
all these cascading dependencies.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So you need to know so much, and there's so many dependencies on things. We can abstract that complexity away, make it easier to use, but the concept should definitely be taught to developers so they can be self-reliant.
One last question, because you told you're creating modules for these developers, or you're making your own life easier as well, that as Arcady you have some library of these modules, or are you using ALZ modules for that? Yeah,
that's a good one. We are definitely writing our own modules, but we generally use like the ALZ, the Azure Landing Zones examples, but nowadays there's also the Azure Verified modules. They're basically a baseline of cloud adoption framework and well-architected framework aligned modules, so you can really easily deploy a SQL Server instance and have it be aligned with all the best practices. And we tend to build our own small abstractions around those, if it makes sense, of course, because we don't want to make layers and layers and layers of complexity, but we can make some things like application gateways a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining here at the SDN Cast, and enjoy your rest of Futuretech.
Yeah, thank you.